بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الغر الميامين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm so delighted to see you again after almost 2 weeks of snow break. So alhamdulillah, finally we were able to come back here and see each other and be at each other's service. I am so delighted to see these beautiful faces coming around again. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you all, support you all, and protect you and your family members. Before I begin, I would like to ask my dear brothers and sisters here to recite Al-Fatiha on the soul of a sister who passed away this week, Al-Marhuma Juliet Wazni, who passed away this past week, and we had her funeral on Friday. I would like to ask you all to recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha on her behalf. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين فإن زللتم من بعد ما جاءتكم البينات فاعلموا أن الله عزيز حكيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idkhulu fi silmi kaffa. Or you who believe, enter into peace all at once. All of you, enter peace. And do not follow the footsteps of the shaitan, for he is a vowed enemy to you. So today we are going to explore some Islamic references to violence and peace. We know that Islam is a religion that promotes peace. Peace at the house, at the family, peace at home, peace at the community, peace in the society, peace everywhere. In fact, one of our Imams, Al-Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, has a beautiful hadith in which he says, Faza wallahi al-abrar. The righteous are the winners in the eyes of Allah. They are the true winners. And then when one of his companions asked him about the definition of abrar, who are the true righteous? قال أتدري من هم? Do you know who are the true abrar, righteous? هم الذين لا يؤذون الذر. Those who do not hurt an ant. They live peace throughout their life. They practice peace throughout their life. They tend to be non-violent throughout their entire life. They do not at all resort to violence. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, says, كف أذاك عن الناس. Stop hurting people. Never hurt people. كف أذاك عن الناس. Don't hurt people. فإنه صدقة تتصدق بها على نفسك. When you guard yourself, when you restrain yourself from hurting and abusing other people, in fact, that's a charity you're doing to yourself. That's like a sadaqah. You see how we give a charity to the poor? Sometimes I'm not required to give a charity to the poor. I'm required to give a charity to myself by abstaining from violence, by abstaining from hurting and abusing other people. That's what I'm required of to. And that's considered charity. Sometimes we are in more need of that charity than a poor to my charity, to my monetary charity. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, من كف يده عن الناس فإنما يكف عنهم يدا واحدة ويكفون عنه أياد كثيرة. When you stop hurting people with your hand, in fact, you are promoting that lesson in the community, that many people also will learn not to use their hands. It's a cycle, my dear brothers and sisters, and I'm going to talk about that soon. In this country, my dear brothers and sisters, that we live in, we form only 5% of the world's population. Yet, we commit 31% of all world shootings. Can you imagine that? We only form 5% of the world's population. However, we commit 31% of the world's shootings. In this year, 2018, there have been 18 incidents and attacks on public schools, one every week. Sometimes you don't even hear about them. And we are considered to be one of the most violent nations on earth, with 90,000 individuals killed every year in this country. 90,000 people killed every year in this country, many of them during random shootings. And the last one we witnessed was the one that took place 2 or 3 days ago in Florida. My dear brothers and sisters, when some individuals, a 19-year-old man, can take the rifle, his M16 rifle, and enter school and shoot people randomly, killing, 17, 18 people so far, cold-bloodedly. And then he goes back, he goes out, he goes to Subway and ordered his hamburger sandwich. There's something inherently wrong with this society. When people can kill so cold-bloodedly and then go to sip his coffee at Subway, there's something wrong with this society, my dear brothers and sisters. What happened? What did transpire in this country that can allow a young man who's supposed to focus on his future, building his future, being a positive, constructive member of the society, to take such radical step in his life by eliminating 17, 18, 19 people's life and not really even a blink about it? There's something inherently wrong with this community, with this society, my dear brothers and sisters. Where does it start? It starts at home, my dear brothers and sisters. Islam says when your child is born, make sure you do not mistreat them. You're not violent with them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to Prophet Moses يا موسى أتعلم من أحب خلقي إلي? Do you know who are my most beloved creatures? He says, no, tell me. قال إنهم الأطفال. Kids are my most beloved creatures. Why? Because they don't commit sins. That's number one. They don't hold hatred in their life, in their heart. You see kids fight a lot, right? They fight a lot. But 5 minutes later they go and they talk to each other. They play with each other. In fact, sometimes if you try to remove the other child from your child who was fighting with him, your child will start crying. No, I want my cousin. But you were fighting with your cousin 5 minutes. It's okay. I still love him. Because they know no hatred. Where this hatred comes from? It comes from the society. It comes from evil people. Evil people instill hatred in our heart and in its heart. That's why when they grow up, they learn to hate, unfortunately. So the first thing Islam insists on, don't let hatred creep into your kid's heart. Don't. How do we do that? Number one, don't be violent with them at all. No matter what they do, you can discipline them through other ways other than violence. Never be violent with them. Violence is one of the most heinous vices a human being can commit. It's a cycle. When you beat your child, never ever think that this will go away. There is something that psychologists tell you about. It is called subconscious. Their subconscious will absorb the violence they endure, and then it will come to haunt them 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. When they become adults themselves, when they become parents themselves, they start beating their kids subconsciously. Why? That's how they were brought. That's what they were taught. So if you resort to violence, you need to keep in mind that you are the first one to pay the price for it. When your child himself will turn into a violent person. Never resort to violence. One day, a father came home and his very hyper child was creating so much headaches for his mother. When the mother turned to the father and she started complaining about her hyper son and complaining about him and what he did today and how many trouble he caused and how many things he broke. And the father was so upset and furious. And that's a mistake, my dear brothers and sisters. When the husband comes home, don't go and ignite him. Don't. He comes home, he needs to relax. He needs to find a place where he finds peace and serenity. He doesn't want to come into an oven where he could be ignited and exploded afterward. Never do that. Never at all. Ignite your husband. Never turn your husband against your child. Never complain to your husband about your child. You need to handle that properly and wisely. And instead of inciting violence and turning your husband into a violent person, you need to handle this. Be more educated and be wiser about handling this. I know many mothers, especially in the Middle East, because of lack of education and wisdom, the first thing they do when their husbands come home, يا أبو علي ابنك خرب لي البيت اليوم. And she starts rumbling and rumbling and rumbling. And what happens ultimately? Abu Ali takes the belt that he wears and he starts, whipping his son. Not once, not twice, maybe 20, 30, 40 times. I'm not joking, nor I'm exaggerating. In fact, I read in the newspaper some kids died while they were beaten and abused by their parents. Be very careful. So what this father does out of anger on his son, his 5-year-old son, he takes a pin and he starts poking his hand. And then a few days pass by, not knowing that this pin was tainted by bacteria and maybe some viruses. And then over a few days, his son's hands were infected. And he had to take him to the hospital. At the hospital, after checking his son, the doctor came out and they broke the bad news to the father that there is no way for us to save his life unless we amputate his hand. And the father was resisting to hear the news. He did not believe it in the beginning. But the doctors kept insisting on him. This is not a joke. And you don't have much time before you make that decision. And you should do that immediately before it may affect his heart and his entire life. Ultimately, the father had to submit and accept this outcome and take the poison and drink it. So, without telling the son what was going on, they take him into the operation room. And they put the child to sleep, and then they amputate his both hands. And then the child wakes up, and he finds he has no hand. And then he turns to his father, and he says, "Father, what happened to my hand?" And the father could not resist his tears. And then the son, after seeing his father crying, he says to his father, "Father, I promise you, I will not get you angry anymore. All I ask, give me my hand back." The father could not handle it. He had heart attack and he died immediately. My dear brothers and sisters, our kids are gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are precious gifts from Allah. Never compromise over that gift. Never mishandle that gift. Never misuse that gift. Your kids are gifts. You need to appreciate these gifts. You need to love them. You need to adore them. Never resort to violence. Allah will hold you accountable. In our religion and Islam, if a father or a mother resort to physically beating their child, and there are remarks on their body, they have to pay kafara, retribution. Depending if the color, if it turns blue or red, you as a father have to pay that kafara. It's a retribution. It's a fine, basically. So it would not allow me to do it again. Number 2, my dear brothers and sisters, don't abuse them emotionally. Again, unfortunately, in some Middle Eastern, and maybe even here in this country as well, the minute the child makes a mistake, parents are quick to use names. Ya Ahmar, Ya Ba'ar. Don't use those words. These words will resonate in their mind, and it will hurt their personality. It will hurt them deeply. Your child might not be able to tell you how distraught he is over those words. He cannot express it. But that doesn't mean your child is happy when you use those names. Don't belittle them. Don't use any word that comes to your tongue and call them. Even when you're angry, watch your words. Because again, as a child could be scarred by your physical violence, they could be scarred by your words as well. And in fact, that could be more devastating. If you hit him or discipline him on his hand, he may forget 5, 10, 1 hour, 10 minutes later, 1 hour later. But when you call him names, God forbid, dog, donkey, words like pig, he will always remember those words. And they will hurt his or her personality deeply. And that will create resentment. I was told by many children that when we were children, when we were young, we resented our parents. We resented our parents. Why? Because all they did, they would use those words. Never once they say something good. When child comes from school and he have his cart with him, he has his cart with him, and he has 8+, what do we say? خرجك ما أنت طالع على بيك. Of course, you have to have A+. As if his father was Einstein or Isaac Newton. So when he scores high, we never give them a credit. As if they were supposed to score high. What's the big deal? But imagine if one day your child comes home and he has B+ or minus. And the names started. أنت ما بتفهم. You don't understand. You're stupid. You're not worth going to school. You're not worth me spending any money on you. And then that emotional abuse starts. That's a big mistake, my dear brothers and sisters. When your child scores high, you must acknowledge them. You must acknowledge the hard work they have done. And when they make a mistake, be more tolerant. Be more understanding. Don't be so discouraging. If he comes one day having B- or B+, tell him, what a wonderful son. What a wonderful daughter. I'm so proud of you. But I hope, inshallah, next time you will get A+. That's how you encourage them. Not by being so demeaning to them, by belittling them. Number 3, my dear brothers and sisters, there is a shaitan that lives in every family room in America. And guess what the name of that shaitan? The TV. The TV, my dear brothers and sisters, could be one of the most devastating tools in our life. Our kids watch numerous violent scenes every week, day in and day out. Every time they turn TV on, all they see, violent scenes. And that's a very big problem that we face in America today. You need to watch what your kids watch on the TV. Don't ever let them be exposed to this type of materials. No violence. Don't let them watch violence. Now the problem is that it is not only the TV. Now each one of our kids, God bless them, they have their iPad. They have sometimes their own cell phone or smartphone. And they play games on their iPads or smartphones. Even those games, unfortunately, that our kids watch, most of those games include violence. Most of those games you need to watch. you need to interfere right now. And you need to check those games. If those games include violence, don't. If they contain violence, don't let them watch them. Tell your son, I will buy you another game, but not this one. If this costs $30 to buy, tell him I will buy you another one that costs $30 or even $40, providing it does not contain violence. Don't ever let your kids watch violence. Number 4, my dear brothers and sisters, instill in them peace and the love for peace. Show them practically. They say the first teacher for your children is who? Is you. You are number 1 teacher for your kids. Your kids watch you and they imitate you. They imitate you without they even realize. Without you even realize. How our kids learn our language. I speak Iraqi, they speak Iraqi like me. How did they learn that? How? They learn from me. You speak Lebanese dialect, they learn from you Lebanese dialect. How did they do that? From you. That's how they learn. They imitate, they emulate, they watch and they observe. They watch their parents closely. Every word you say, it resonates in their mind. Every name you call, it stays in their mind. If you want your kids not to be violent, show them. Lead by example. You refrain from any violent act. You refrain from any violent words. One day, our holy Prophet Muhammad sallu alayhi ba'ala aswatikum. Sitting in the masjid when a group of Jewish people, a delegation from the Jewish community came in to visit him. When they sat, you know, we Muslims, our official greeting is Assalamu alaikum. So, and instead of saying Assalamu alaikum, they said Assalamu alaikum. And there's a huge difference between Assalamu alaikum, if you know Arabic, and Assalamu alaikum. Assam means poison. Poison be upon you. They thought the Prophet did not hear they did not realize what they said. Because Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum are very close, very close. The Prophet did hear them. What did he say? He says, wa alaikum. And upon you, and upon you. They said, poison upon you, and he says, upon you, and upon you. Meaning poison upon you too. Without using the word. Without using the word. Very gently. Wa alaikum. His wife Aisha was sitting next to him. She got furious when she heard the word Assalamu alaikum. You're saying this to the Prophet of Allah? You're insulting the Prophet? She looked at them and she exploded on them. La'anakum Allah, may God curse you. Ya ma'ashir al-Yahud, oh you Jewish people. And she went on and on attacking them, insulting them. And then the Prophet looks at Aisha and he says, Hawwini alayki. Calm down, Aisha. Why are you making a big deal? She says, Ya Rasulallah, awama sami'ta ila ma qalu? Did you hear what they said? They said, Assalamu alaikum, poison on you. فقال رسول الله, the Prophet says, awama sami'ta ila ma qult? Didn't you hear what I said? I said, and unto you. And that's it. And then he says to his wife, Ya Aisha, إن الرفق لا يوضع على شيء إلا زانه. Always be calm. Always be nice. Always use nice words. Because every time you use nice words, you will shine. وإن الخرق لا يوضع على شيء إلا شانه. And every time you resort to rambling and calling names and insulting others, you will never shine. In fact, you will look bad. And instead of them looking bad, today you looked bad. So, when we exercise those lessons in our life, my dear brothers and sisters, when we stop calling people names, when we resort to nice words and not abusive one, when someone mistreats me and I do not use his words and his style, and that indeed all I am doing is I'm promoting peace in the community. You have heard this from me before. When a man came to Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, our fourth Imam, the Imam was leaving his house. He came to the Imam Zayn al-Abidin, and there was no bad word that he did not use. Every single bad word you imagine, every profane language you imagine, he used against the Imam. He called the Imam a liar. He called the Imam a crook. He called the Imam so many names. And the Imam did not say anything. He just lowered his head, listening. When the man finished his rumbling and finished all his weapons against the Imam alayhi salam, the Imam looked at him with a smile on his face, and he says, إن كنت كاذبا في إن كنت صادقا فيما قلت غفر الله لي وإن كنت كاذبا فيما قلت غفر الله لك. If those words you said about me were true, I am liar, I am a crook, may God forgive me. And if those words were not true and you were a liar, then may God forgive you. And that's it. That's how he ended it. He did not engage in any violent act or word. Imagine if this happens to one of us. What would happen? What would happen? We go back, and instead of saying one word, we will tell him 10 words. And instead of insulting him one time, if he did, we will insult him 10 times. We will tell him, Ashak, Ashak, don't come near me. If you do this, I will fight violence with violence. No, Islam doesn't say fight violence with violence. Islam says, idfa' billati hiya ahsan. If you want to kill violence off, if you want to uproot violence, then don't resort to violence. If you resort to violence, in fact, all you will be doing, you will be adding fuel to fire. That's what you are going to do. But if you want other people not to be violent, if you want your kids not to resort to violence, then you refrain from being violent. You stay above and don't resort to violence. So, my dear brothers and sisters, in a nutshell, I would say that in order for us to build a society void of violence, this is what we need to do. First, our president, our Congress needs to impose some more restrictions on gun use and have gun control. And not allow anybody to go and buy gun any minute they want and use it any minute they want. That's number one. Number two, it goes back to home. How we raise our kids. How we teach them to behave. Why? Why someone who is young should resort to violence. Why? This shows that there is a big failure at home, that the family, the community, the school, the environment failed this guy. We're quick to condemn people, but we hardly look into the root cause of those problems. Why this is happening? It did not come out of vacuum. When we have the largest number of inmates in the world, do you know that? The United States has the largest number of inmates, 2.7 million people now in jails and prisons in the United States. This is our correctional system. That's how we are. We allow this to happen. We breed violence. The US has become a breeding ground for violence. You think those who come out of jail or prison without rehabilitating, what they will do? They will go back and commit those crimes again. If I don't work on them, rehabilitate them, uproot violence from their heart, teach them the right lesson. Islam always says, before teaching, purify. Purify the soul, then you teach. يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابِ. The Prophet, before teaching people, he used to purify their soul, rehabilitate their soul. He got a bunch of nomad people who used to kill one another, fight one another, loot one another. He turned them into almost angels, people who would turn completely different. How? How did he do that, my dear brothers and sisters? How? That is the secret of his profession. Every one of us has a secret in our profession. That's how you lead your profession. You're a physician, you have a secret. What is the secret? You mastered that art. What was the art that the Prophet used to master? What was it? He was able to change a beast into a human being. A man who looks like a man, but in fact he's nothing but a beast, preying upon other people, killing another people. He would bring him, he would rehabilitate him, he would purify his soul, he would make him a humble person, a God-fearing person, a responsible person, and then he would let him go. And by doing this, he was able to build a nation. That's how you build a nation. You build a nation not by allocating $1.5 billion, $1 trillion for your defense and for your Pentagon. No, that's not going to bring peace. I always say our country sent its fleets, military fleets, as far as China and Japan and the Middle East and the Pacific and the Indian Ocean to bring peace to this world, while there is no peace in our midst. Go to Florida, to high school, there is no peace. Go to public places to watch a movie, there is no peace. You're never sure if you will come out of it safe or not. Where is security in our own country? Not alone to seek it outside. Our country tries to resolve conflicts between nations in Africa, in the Middle East, but yet it fails to resolve conflict within its nation. Why? Because we thought we can buy everything through money. We can buy everything through cash. We can buy everything through military machine. That's not going to work. Unless you change people's personality and turn them morally into good citizens, you will not be able to achieve that goal. That's what the Prophet ﷺ did. I would like to end here, and before ending, I would like to also remind you that today corresponds with the 40th day of the departure of our dear sister Hajja Nabiha Dakaroob Makki, who is known to all of you. And She's a dear friend, a dear mother, a dear wife, a dear member of our community who passed away 40 days ago after struggling with cancer for almost 2 years. We miss her today and we pray for her, for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would grant her an abode next to our holy prophet, peace be upon him and his holy prophet. And I would like to ask you to recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha on her behalf. Al-Fatiha. If there are questions for 5-10 minutes, I will answer. Otherwise, I shall conclude with the dua. Hajj Dayan Wazni has a question.
Being that you talk about the failures of parents with their children here, does that pertain also around the world, the failure of parents to keep their children from going out and killing hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East that affects us? Is that the failure of the parents?
Yes, definitely.
Not only here.
Definitely. I agree with you, Hajj Dayan. But you just reminded me of a statistics I was reading this morning, and I would like to share this with you. So, listen to this statistics. The United States spends $1 trillion, $1,000 billion on fighting terrorism. About 30 people die in the United States due to terrorism every year, while 12,000 people die due to firearms every year. Yes, there is terrorism, and there are people dying out of terrorism. But those people dying out of terrorism are a fraction of those who are dying due to our domestic violence. And by the way, my dear brothers and sisters, the irony is this, that as of now, despite all those atrocities and carnages that take place almost on a weekly basis, the media refrain from calling this terrorism. They don't call it terrorism. My son was asking me, he says, Dad, why they did not call this guy a terrorist? I said, very simple, because he's not Muslim. If he was Muslim, they would have immediately called him terrorist. The word terrorist, the label terrorist, is reserved for Muslims. But if you're a white American committing, crimes, violence, haram, he is he is mentally troubled. He's sick. Well, say the same thing about the Muslim guy. He's also mentally troubled. Don't say this is his religion. Don't say this is Islam promoting. Yes, Hajj, I agree. There are parents who failed in the Middle East to raise their kids in a way that they will not be violent, and we have people here in this country. The only difference is we call it terrorism there, but we don't call it terrorism here. And that is the problem. When you don't call things by their names, you are being very lenient, and you are giving a pass to those who would like to commit more violence. I agree with you 100%. And I talked so many times so far about those beasts in the Middle East, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Syria, in Pakistan, who prey upon innocent lives in the name of Islam. We have mentally troubled people here, and we have mentally troubled people there. And I believe that's another subject I need to address one day, inshallah, sometime soon. The mental illness. That's another challenge that we face in this country and the world in general. Inshallah, I will talk about that. But yes, we have those who act in the name of Islam, but believe it or not, how many people get killed here due to political terrorism. Nothing compared to the number of people being killed almost every week in those random shootings. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات، إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك قاضي الحاجات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة.